We are live. Hold on, let's get us all in here at the same. There we go. Okay. No. Yeah? Okay. Welcome. Tomorrow night is a Seder, and we are here getting ready. Special guest this week. What's your name?
My name is Rabbi Wolf, Rabbi Unicorn. This is Rabbi Wolf, now it's Rabbi Unicorn. I think this mask is FDA approved, and I like going places with this, so if you see me anywhere. It keeps the hands out of the face, and I think it's a way to go.
Looks great. Can you see anything?
No. Not really.
Tell us what else you're wearing.
I'm wearing an outfit, a pharaoh costume. I like to rock at the Seder, and it helps the kids feel engaged, and they seem to enjoy it. So I'm getting in the mood, getting in the spirit. Got my pharaoh, garb with the unicorn head, and I think we're getting ready to go.
Awesome. Wait, so can you just explain why a unicorn for the Seder?
Well, there were wild beasts. That was one of the plagues, and presumably the unicorn was probably one of them. So that's why I do it. Did you have a different reason?
No.
Oh, okay. Cool. I'm going to take this off. It's getting a little hot.
Okay. Okay, also going on here is, we have little baby. She wanted to join us. I'm actually in the middle of making one of our favorite recipes for Pesach. As much as I try not to make it sometimes because I don't like anything that takes a lot of work. I don't usually do. But this one I've gotten down to routine, and it's not so difficult. It's actually pretty simple, and it's very flexible also. So you can make it according to your needs, and this is our ultimate favorite recipe. So what it is our favorite way to make it is cauliflower quinoa muffins. Right now, though, I'm making a batch of broccoli quinoa muffins. And I'll just show you what I did already. Here's a broccoli. I already roasted a pan of broccoli. I think the kids got to a little bit. And I chopped it up into little pieces. So this is what's left of our broccoli. And I have in this bowl, when I cook, I like to do extra. So this is 4 times the recipe. 1 time the recipe would be 1.5 cups of quinoa cooked and 1 cup of cheese. So this is 6 cups of quinoa cooked and 4 cups of cheese. That's what I have so far in the bowl. And now...
Oh, my dad thinks it looks yummy. Dad will bring you some.
Okay, so next we need eggs. So the recipe calls for 1 egg, and this is times 4. So I'm about to put in 4 eggs. Just find a cup. And what we like to do when we do eggs, more than like, what we do is we always crack the eggs first into a cup. Because what if the egg is bloody? Blood is not kosher. So we just always check the egg before we put it into the bowl. One other thing is, if you can notice, if you've ever watched any sort of cooking show or demonstration before, that's not what our kitchen looks like. This is just what it is, and there's something about being real with what it is. And, we do clean up, but everyone's different, and everyone has their own needs and their own strengths, and thank God there's a lot going on in here regularly, and one day maybe it'll be different, but we're very happy with what we're at right now. You can also notice all the foil around. Do you want to talk about the foil?
Yeah, the foil is, you got to make sure as we prepare for Passover and we keep out any chametz, any leavening, any yeast, any leavening agent. So we just cover the entire counter space with foil to make it suitable for cooking on Passover. So that's why we do that. Sarah's very helpful with that. And yeah, do you want to keep doing the demo? Yeah.
Yeah. Let me just finish. I'll show you guys what it looks like. I've seen some other great ideas for countertops. plastic corrugated board some people use.
Corrugated.
Yeah, you know what that is?
You don't know what that is either, do you?
Yeah, I do.
Corrugated.
It's like a
do any of you watching right now, you can participate. Anyone who's watching this right now, do you know what the word corrugated means? Sarah just dropped corrugated board on me. Does anyone know what corrugated means?
Is it corrugated or corrugated?
I've never heard that word in my entire life, and I'm a sister's in English doctorate candidate, so I feel like she made that up. But we could check after this.
Okay, so I just poured in the broccoli, and then we need some spices. So I'm gonna put in. It calls for, let's see, garlic. So my teaspoon is here. Okay, it calls for half a teaspoon of garlic. So again, this is times 4. So I'm going to put in 2 teaspoons of garlic. This is the garlic. Yep. 1, 2. And then
Austin, is corrugated a real word? You say it's an SAT word. You're probably right, but I feel like you're smart. You would know. You can let us know. Keep going, Sarah. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Also in the recipe, it calls for Italian seasoning. But I like to be flexible. We don't have Italian seasoning at the moment. We have basil. So instead, I'm just going to put in a ton of basil. It calls for a whole teaspoon of basil. So I'm actually just going to pour this in. Okay. We got our basil.
That's more than a teaspoon.
Well, this is 4.
Times 4.
Times 4. Just put a little extra salt. Make sure it's yummy. This might be reminiscent a little of my husband's cholent making video.
Yes.
Maybe you learned your cooking skills from me. I don't know.
Could be.
I'll add a little pepper just for some extra flavor. And then I think, whoops, that was a lot. I think that's everything.
Can we show them what it looks like in the bowl?
Yeah, I'm going to show you. The recipe also calls for a 1/4 of Parmesan cheese, but I don't have that either. So here we go. Whoops, we don't want to drop it on the floor. This is quinoa, broccoli, muffins. This is what it's going to be. And what I also like to do, I'm just going to mix it up. Sometimes I don't like to make it into muffins because it's more work and you have to wash the muffin tin. And so you can also just make it into a kugel. And then you get a quinoa, broccoli, cheese kugel, which for us works great because we're vegetarian, so we're not eating any meat. So all our meals really could be dairy. So this is really a go-to on Passover for us because our only proteins are egg and quinoa. I guess cheese has some protein also, but so this is really a staple by us. Okay, I'm just gonna mix it up. I'll put it in the muffin cups. Can you hold the baby? Okay.
I'll try.
Okay.
I did want to just share an idea. We have a couple ideas we just want to talk about as we approach the Seder. And, one of the ideas I wanted to talk about, I think is a big theme of this holiday, is the idea of gratitude. It's very interesting. I was talking to a friend earlier today about this, that famously when the first plague of blood and the subsequent couple of plagues happened, it was not Moses who enacted the plague. It wasn't him who struck the river. It wasn't him who struck the ground when it turned to lice. It was not, it wasn't Moshe. Why? Because the Torah tells us, Rashi explains that the water concealed Moshe when he was in the river, hiding. And when Moshe, took down the Egyptian guy who was, assaulting the Jew, and he used the sand and the dirt to cover him up, that those inanimate objects were helpful to Moshe. And therefore, it would not be appropriate for him to, it would not be appropriate for Moshe to strike them. And that's a wild idea because the reality is that the sand doesn't have any feelings. It's not like Moshe owed the sand gratitude. The sand didn't do anything for him. The water, it's not going to be upset if Moshe doesn't thank the water. If he strikes the water. It doesn't have any feelings. So it's a very powerful lesson that our rabbis teach us, that gratitude is so fundamental, and on some level, it's really about the thanker more than the thankee. And it's training ourselves to appreciate all of the goodness. And it was important, therefore, for Moshe to not strike these inanimate objects with no feelings that helped him out. And that's like a powerful idea. Now, it just occurred to me today when I was talking to my buddy Brett. We're having a nice conversation, and it occurred to me that the first word a Jew says every morning that we're meant to say is Moda ani lefanecha. Thank you, God, for basically returning my soul to me. We appreciate how special it is when we're born again, when we're given life. Now more than ever, perhaps we can appreciate that. The first word that comes out of our mouth when we wake up is Moda ani, I am a thanker. And again, it's the same idea. God does not need our gratitude. It's not like God is like sitting, up on his throne, just like, waiting for me to say thank you so he can like feel good about himself. He doesn't need it. Just like the water didn't need, the gratitude for Moshe, or the sand, God doesn't need our gratitude. So it must be when I say Moda ani, like I thank you, I'm a thanker. That is a critical idea, that we wake up with gratitude, thanking the Almighty for giving us yet another day. And I think that's, honestly a big idea about the Seder, and I think it's appropriate for the situation that we find ourselves. My better half here, she's just doing she'll chime in soon. But and it occurred to me that we need to, do the best we can to be thankers, to be thankful, and to always seek to acknowledge the good and to say thank you for it. And I was thinking, honestly, for right now, on some level, we ought to try to be thankful even for the current situation, that we are finding ourselves in. This not ideal situation that we find ourselves in, and to reflect upon the things that we can actually be thankful for. I know we talked about this a little bit, but something that occurred to me that I'm, thankful for is there's something called the Daf Yomi cycle, that Jews across the world are learning the same page of Talmud every single day. And I believe tomorrow, the page in the Talmud we're learning is from Tractate Shabbos, and we're learning about the great Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, that he was oppressed. There was oppression going on in in Israel at the time, from I believe it was the Romans, and he had to hide. He had to go into hiding. So essentially, him and his son had to go up, in the north of Israel, and they camped out in a cave, and they literally had to go into a cave for 7 years. And the Talmud tells us all they did during those 7 years was they just studied and they learned and they grew. That's what they did. They came out after 7 years and they were like on fire. They couldn't handle it, and they had to go back in the cave for another 7 years. But it occurred to me on some level that now is an opportunity actually where we're kind of like going back into the cave after being out in the world and being out and about and so busy all the time, and often too busy to even work on growth, on whatever level it is for us. So now we're kind of like back in the cave, and now's an opportunity to learn and to grow. And I realize that I'm actually quite thankful for that, to really, as things can slow down a little bit for us, to appreciate this moment as it is. And please God, I really think that this moment, God willing, is fleeting and it's going to end soon. And it seems, God willing, that we're, God willing, please, trending in the right direction. But now is an opportunity, a limited opportunity, to really dig in and look inward and look at ourselves and utilize this opportunity for growth in any levels of our life. We're actually offering, shameless plug, we're offering a Hebrew reading course starting on Monday. It'll go, a number of weeks. And now, now like learn a new language, may as well. Why don't you just go ahead and learn a new language? Or something I've done that I feel like a lot of millennials, I'm like on the cusp of millennial / the older generation, something that we don't do really, I think by and large, we don't read all that much. We're too busy, watching videos or reading the news or whatever it is. So like maybe we can like take up reading again. I actually just finished a book, probably the first book in a year that I finished, called Deep Work by Cal Newport, how to work deeply and not be bothered by shallow, work that wastes our time, etc. So now I really think we're in the cave, so to speak, and it behooves us to be thankful for this opportunity for growth. I'm not sure on that one. We're like streaming from 3 screens, so on my phone, I'm sorry, there's Sarah. Okay, but I think it behooves us to utilize this opportunity to grow and to decide what we want to grow in. And I know for myself, I just ordered a bunch of books on like time management. I'm pumped up to get like good routines, like doing the right thing. And like now's the opportunity I have to work on that, because usually, it's just there's so much thrown at us. We're so busy. And this is, just a unique opportunity in our lives where we can buckle down, be in the cave like Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was, and work and grow and work and cherish this opportunity. Obviously, while understanding the gravity of the situation and praying fervently for everyone to heal and for this to stop, but to see the silver lining that it is an opportunity for tremendous growth. So that's something I just wanted to share with y'all.
Yeah, your pyro costume and talking about gratitude just reminded me. I was thinking about the plagues, and it's something in the Seder. We'll show you our Seder table at the end and all our plagues we have around, but we take very seriously just talking about the plagues. And I always just thought about it as a fun thing. I never really understood the gravity of the situation. As you know, we're going in now, and this pandemic is like a plague. And the difference is that in Egypt, the plagues didn't hit the Jews; it only hit the Egyptians. And like because of that, also, I was like, it wasn't as relatable. Like we didn't have to go through that. We saw other people going through it, but we didn't have to. But now that like everyone in the world is going through this, it's just like I really feel for what went on, and I realized that God he turned the whole of Egypt upside down for us. Like the miracles that he did of the plagues, like beyond that they were just miracles, that the river turned to blood, right? And if an Egyptian took, it would be blood, and if a Jew took, it would be water. And then if the Jew gave to the Egyptian, it would turn into blood again, unless they bought it for a really high price. And just this idea of gratitude of what God did in taking us out of Egypt and his might. I'm just so in awe of it that, in this plague, there's no distinguishing between who's getting it. But then there was, and there's just, I just feel like more deeply connected to it. I was reading to the kids some books today, they talk about, they really make it, like the whole story very real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's important. That's good. Yeah. It's very important to make it real for us. That's really the obligation that we all have tomorrow night at the Seder. More than getting all fancy, and getting into the deep philosophical underpinnings of the day. The biggest deal is just to relive it, is to experience it, to really feel it. So that's a big deal. That's a fun, yeah. So a little reunion of cousins here.
It's nice to see family.
It's nice to see family. Thank you all for tuning in.
Yeah.
Okay, just one other idea. Just a couple of quick, thoughts, and then I'll turn it over again. Just as we think about tomorrow. So tomorrow's called a Seder, and Seder, what it actually means is order. And I've been thinking a lot about this, that I feel like for so many of us in our lives, it's something to work on that can help us as we're isolated indoors, away from our usual routine and schedule, is to work on order, to make ourselves like a schedule every day, when you wake up, to think of a schedule and to go through the day in a methodical, well thought out way. And I think that probably will contribute to our overall well-being and happiness, is just having a Seder, a structure. Yeah. And it's what we do at the Seder. We declare exactly what we're going to do over the next couple hours. That's the first thing that we do. So I think it's something I've been thinking about as well. Another
idea I heard about Seder is just that recognizing that we're having the Seder tomorrow night, and so too the world has a Seder to it, and it's so it's scary if you go out, you don't know where the germs are and you can't see, but just to know that there's some sort of order to the world, even if we don't understand it. Understanding Beautiful. The bigger picture. Speaking of routines, though, that also reminded me something I was thinking about, is I often say, especially when there's holidays or the summer, whenever our normal routine is interrupted, kids' vacation, whatever it is, I usually say that those interruptions, that it's not just about being in the routine and how much you can get done when you're in the routine, but having those interruptions, that's the whole point. That life is not about productivity, it's how do we react to situations that we're in. So it's almost more productive, it is more productive for us to go through these times of the year, right? The year cycle brings us a change in routine, so we can work on our flexibility and adapting and accepting the situation and what we're in, and just going along with it, more so than I can't wait to get back to routine. And often I do feel that way, and being in my routine of getting things done, and but this is just turned all of that upside down, And I was thinking about it in terms of freedom and slavery. And, maybe I was enslaved to that routine that I always looked forward to getting back into, and that busy schedule, and running to Trader Joe's and Sprouts and Costco and King Soopers, and balancing our groceries with everything else, with work and pickups and everything, that I just was so enslaved to that and getting everything done. And now this actually relates to the kids also. I was listening to this podcast about homeschooling that Danny sent me, and having a schedule is good and it's important. It's almost the opposite of what you're saying. They're both good, but I think it's important to have a schedule, but we have to be flexible with it also, right? And so many people are posting the perfect homeschooling schedule for their kids, and I finally figured out that they need recess around 11 and 3. And that's helpful, and what time to have the meals ready. But at the same time, just letting them play and learn on their own and do their things and manage their own time, as opposed to keeping them in a strict routine, I found has been really helpful just for us. And I know every family is so different, but I think it's so important to not just try to fit into that box that we were in before and try to continue it, but to see how can we take different things out of this, and what changes should we make to our usual routines, and really think about, if we have freedom to just start over and rebuild what we want to put into our daily life, what's it going to be? And to think about that, and to being a free person, right, is to be able to make those decisions and not just be enslaved to whatever factors are around you. For sure.
And I think you bring up a good point about slavery, and that is to, now, we have an obligation tomorrow night that we're leaving Egypt, right? We're leaving the servitude, and all of us have our own Egypt. We all have our own things that hold us back. Mitzrayim in Hebrew, that's what Egypt is. It's confinement. So it's upon us, and we have a mitzvah every day actually to mention and recall the leaving of Egypt, because we have to, I don't know if I'm wearing this right, but we have to, identify for ourselves the things that hold us back and constrict us and hold us back from being the people that we're really meant to be. And tomorrow night, we work on that. We go through that process, and we leave all those things that hold us back from being the optimal version of us. We leave those things behind. So I think, similar to what you're saying, we have to think about the things that enslave us, and to think about how do we overcome that. And we think about our own personal Mitzrayim and how we can leave that behind. And something I've been thinking about is, again, just a enslavement for myself that I have sometimes to, just social media, to the news, Twitter. I could spend a long time on Twitter. And today I made the plunge. I just went ahead and deactivated my account. So for all of you, hundreds and hundreds of people out there who follow me on Twitter, you just switch over to this platform right now. That's my one of choice, Facebook or Instagram, DWolf85. Look me up, but Twitter, no more words of wisdom from me over there. So because it's just it's an energy sucker, it just makes me depressed, and so that's something that God willing I'm going to leave behind, and obviously think about other things as well. But it's incumbent upon all of us to consider those things that hold us back and prevent us from, again, being that incredible, optimal version of ourselves that we know that we can be. And now is the time to consider those things, and to work on leaving them behind and experiencing redemption for ourselves. And that's something we gotta.
That's so telling what you said, that you're on Facebook, you're on Instagram, you're on Twitter, but you took off Twitter. And you could say oh, what's the big deal? There's two other platforms, but I think that's not the point at all. The point is, you picked one, and it's baby steps, and maybe you don't even need to go off all of them. I'm not even saying that's the case. Maybe the other two are still very, what's the term you were telling me about the other day, that it's worth your time, right? The cost-benefit analysis, it's worthwhile for you to be on there.
Right. I saw this idea from Cal Newport from the book I read for the first time in a year, where he says that a lot of times that we just jump into things that give us benefit. He calls it the any benefit analysis. If you get any benefit from any technology or platform, We just think it's worth it without considering the cost to that. So yeah, it's worth it, catching up on sports news, which doesn't exist anymore. But the cost of that is it just sucks out energy and time.
Yeah.
And it's a problem.
Yeah. So to make a big deal and to celebrate those baby steps of every time we do take a step to work towards a more optimal version of ourselves, I think that's huge.
Beautiful. One last idea. My pops has very generously just told us, it's behooves us to go a little bit shorter than we've been going. Okay. So I just have one last idea. Dad,
last idea, and then we'll take the muffins out.
Take the muffins.
And we'll
3
show
minutes.
You what they look like.
So I have 3 minutes. We'll show you. I don't know if you see on the stove top there. Okay, it says 3 minutes. So we got 3 minutes. We'll show you what this looks like.
Muffins and then the Seder table.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. So there is one part of the Haggadah I always appreciate. And it's the one that says Maisa b'Bnei Brak. There was something that happened in Bnei Brak. All these great rabbis are sitting there studying. And I'm not going to talk about that right now. I want to talk about our own Maisa that we had in Bnei Brak. Sarah and I once shared a Maisa in Bnei Brak. Yeah. Bnei Brak, unfortunately, right now is on, I think, like total, I guess everywhere in Israel is on total lockdown. Yeah. But they've been very, very strict in Bnei Brak. It's been a big problem, the pandemic, and everyone should, God willing, heal and be safe and healthy. But our Maisa in Bnei Brak, so we were once actually traveling to visit cousin Jackie for Shabbos back in where they used to live in Karnei Shomron in Israel, beautiful place. And we had to transfer buses. This is our Sarah's gap year between high school and college, and my sophomore year abroad at Hebrew U. We took a little stop in Bnei Brak for some reason. I guess we had to transfer buses there. So happened to be, we were walking, I was rocking my flip-flops. And sure enough, sometimes you wear the flip-flops and like that thing in the middle of your little toesies, it just came undone. It just came out. And I was unable to, I couldn't walk anymore.
They don't work then.
It's hard to wear a flip-flop when that little thing is out. If anyone knows what that thing is called, feel free to tell us. But that little thing, corrugated, what was that term? Corrugated thing there and between my toes came out.
Wait, it is similar because a corrugated is like there's two pieces of the plastic and the one in the middle is like a zigzag. So it's like I don't know, maybe it is corrugated. Also they have that,
Yeah. So that was corrugated thing. So that corrugated thing that came out. So I'm like, oh no, what do we do? Sure enough, we had like 30 minutes before our bus came in Bnei Brak. And I look around and what do you know? This is called Hashgacha Pratis. This is also what the whole holiday is about. God's divine intervention in our lives that sometimes we're blind to see. But I saw it on this particular Maisa in Bnei Brak. I turn around and there's a shoe store right behind me. So I go over there and I'm like, actually, wait, no. I messed up the story. It's been a long time. I'm like, oh, no worries. I'm going to open up my backpack and get my real shoes, my Shabbos shoes. Oh. It'll be a little awkward. I'm going to be walking through Bnei Brak now in my Shabbos shoes. Okay, people do that. It's the kind of, I was wearing, I think, shorts and a t-shirt, and I'd be wearing Shabbos shoes. Okay, no, what's the big deal? So I do that, and I'm pulling out all of my belongings, for that particular weekend. Just pulling out on the streets, on the sidewalk of Bnei Brak, and after one thing after the next, what do you know? There's no shoes. I forgot to pack my shoes. Oh my gosh. Okay, so then I turn around, and there, my friends, is the shoe store. And I go in and I tell the guy about this Maisa in Bnei Brak that just happened to me. And he was delighted to sell me a pair of Shabbos shoes. And what would have happened if not for my corrugated thing in the middle of my toes falling out? What would have happened was I would have been unable, I would have shown up to shul, to synagogue, wearing flip-flops, which I guess is done in Israel, which is all good, teach his own. But I don't usually do that. One of my toes, this is maybe too much information for Facebook. I don't know when or why this happened or how it happened. One of my toes happens to be crooked. So it'd be just weird and uncomfortable coming into shul in flip-flops. I have a suit and tie and flip-flops, revealing my crooked toe. And because of this Maisa in Bnei Brak that happened, that the sandal broke, I was able to realize that my shoes weren't in existence. I didn't have shoes for Shabbos. And then I could purchase a pair. Made me happy. Made the shoe salesman happy. Everybody was happy. And that was my Maisa in Bnei Brak.
Yay. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so now I'm just going to show you. I'm going to take out the muffins here. So these are our quinoa broccoli muffins, sizzling from the oven. They're especially delicious. Fresh, but they're good anytime. Highly recommend. I'll try to post the recipe in the comments. Okay, this is the last thing now. I also have a kugel of it. I made the rest in a pan. It just needs a couple more minutes in the oven. Okay, the last thing is, this morning I was sleeping in my bed. It reminds me of the song. One time King Pharaoh woke in his bed and there were frogs on his bed and frogs on his head. Well, thankfully there were not frogs on me. But I was sleeping and the kids were coming in one by one. What plates are we using for the Seder? What silverware are we using for the Seder? Where's the tablecloth? This, that. They're asking me all these questions. So what do you know? Hello. This is just like a normal thing in our house. Can you see anything in this one? A little bit?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah? Okay. I guess because it's not as far out as the unicorn.
Yes.
Cool. Okay, so should we bring all these? You know what? The baby's actually sleeping. Do you want me to take her?
Yes.
Okay.
We're going to
You
show
take
you.
two and I'll take one. And we'll show you our Seder table. So we woke up and what do I know? But the table was all set for the Seder. The kids were so excited for the Seder tomorrow night that they set the table this morning, first thing when they woke up. So let's just show you. They actually even set 9 seats because that was fancier. So you see we have our little, this is why we take the plague seriously. See, we have these frogs over there, and we have quail, and we have snakes and alligators, and we have like some bugs also. I don't know if you can see that bug over there. All kinds of things. There's lots of bugs actually. We have to take away the bugs afterwards because the kids just tease each other with them. So that's all. That's all. Thanks for joining us.
Chag Sameach, a beautiful, beautiful Pesach of redemption and health and healing, and we should all celebrate Lashana Haba B'Yerushalayim.
Amen.